At daybreak, crews began removing large parts of the wreckage of American Airlines Flight 5342. Crews say Monday's search yielded results.
During recovery and salvage operations today, additional human remains were located.
New remains recovered in addition to the already positively identified 55 sets of human remains. Heavy machinery crews advancing slowly and carefully, noting that they are committed to a dignified recovery of remains. Monday, cranes could be seen extracting wreckage previously too difficult or dangerous for divers to handle, piece by piece.
Our goal for today was to get to the engine, the fuselage, and the wing, and we're going to be successful by the end of the day.
The National Transportation and Safety Board, or NTSB, is leading the investigation. They recovered the so-called black boxes from both aircraft last week. The NTSB is expected to release more detailed findings from the recovered flight data and voice recorders after they're analyzed.
Every piece of information is critical to the investigation, and so the NTSB is about transparency, so when we can provide that, I think that'll be helpful to provide some additional context and what we're looking at in this investigation.
Preliminary findings indicate the jet's crew may have seen the Blackhawk prior to the collision.
They pitched the nose up towards the sky most likely, but it means they saw it just a second before impact. You cannot move out of the way that fast.
I'm Sherelle Hubbard reporting.
Recovery crews with cranes are pulling plane debris from the floor of the Potomac River today. Remains of last week's deadly mid-air collision between a passenger jet and Army Blackhawk helicopter. The work also giving divers a chance to bring the final victims home. Recovered flight data and voice recorders from both aircraft are being analyzed by the NTSB. Preliminary findings shared over the weekend indicate the jet's crew may have seen the Blackhawk in the final moment.
They pitched the nose up towards the sky most likely, but it means they saw it just a second before impact. You cannot move out of the way that fast.
The NTSB is expected to release more detailed findings from the recordings soon, as the nation's aviation safety is increasingly being called into question.
We have the safest airspace in the world.
The Transportation Secretary offering reassurance, while images from D.C. and Philadelphia fill the headlines. That's where a medevac plane crashed into a residential neighborhood Friday, killing at least 7 people shortly after takeoff.
A lot of the systems we use date back to World War II. We have to upgrade the system. We're going to surge air traffic controllers.
One former air traffic tower supervisor says that'll be a challenge.
The training time for a controller from the completion of their pre-training till when they're able to work on their own in a complex facility can run between 36 and 48 months.
As the debate rolls on, there's one thing officials and most air travelers agree on.
We have to have the best system in the world.
I'm Laura Aguirre reporting.
Just having the CVR and FDR from the plane is just part of the story.
The chair of the NTSB discussing the complex puzzle that investigators are piecing together. Data from the American Airlines jet's cockpit voice recorder and flight data recorder, the CVR and FDR, is being analyzed. The jet plunged into the Potomac after a mid-air collision with an Army Blackhawk helicopter last week. The combination CVR and FDR from the Blackhawk has also been recovered.
Now they're taking that data and making sure that it's accurate, that the timestamps are right, to try to marry it up with the CVR FDR data from the plane.
The NTSB says the Blackhawk's black box did not have timestamps. They will have to manually create those, likely pushing out those findings about a month. Preliminary findings from the plane show the jet's nose pitching up moments before the crash, indicating the crew may have seen the Blackhawk, but too late. There's also been heavy speculation that the Blackhawk may have been higher than the 200-foot altitude limit of its designated flight corridor.
We'll have the Blackhawk, but then we'll take the plane and lay it out so it can be evaluated to figure out what the angle of the collision was.
While a final report from the NTSB could take a year or more, addressing any safety gaps could move much faster.
At any time, the NTSB can issue an urgent safety recommendation. We don't have to wait till the end, and if we see there's a need, we'll do it.
I'm Laura Aguirre reporting.
I know you're from the area. How did you learn about what happened to their flight?
Yeah, well, we were supposed to pick them up, me and my son, like we did from these trips all the time, and we're waiting for them, nearby Reagan in a parking lot, and we're texting with them right before they were supposed to land, and and the tracker said landed, and the text went from blue to green. And then fire trucks started going by. And I mean, at that point, I knew something was wrong. Called someone that, was able to confirm that their plane was in a crash. And I told my son. He came in the front seat with me, and he had a really long cry. He let out just like, this no, it really hurt. That's how we found out before anything was really official, but we already knew.
I can't even imagine having to have that conversation with your young son in that moment where you don't even as a dad have a few moments to process it by yourself.
I mean, it was hard. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about that, but yeah, you're right. It was hard.
I see all the family pictures behind you, and you're such a beautiful family. And I know Brielle's so special, so talented. The video of her figure skating is just something else to watch. What's it like being her dad?
It was the most amazing gift that I could have asked for. I mean, all I ever wanted when I was like a little kid, I remember just wanting a family to love, and we were living our dream, and she was like the dream girl that you could ask for. My son is a dream son too. She was just the dream girl from the moment that I met her. And she just kept exceeding our expectations from the time she was a baby to the time she was reading, chapter books at age 3 to how she excelled in figure skating, made friendships, better than my wife ever could. She just was this social butterfly, smiled in the smallest moments. She was a joy and a gift. We never forgot that. We soaked it all in. People will tell you, to make sure we did soak it all in. But you just never think like something like this could happen to you and that it could be taken away from you.
I couldn't believe it when I read that she overcame cancer as just a baby at 4 months old.
Yeah, I mean, that was hard because that was like waking up to a nightmare, but at least there was hope then, and we went through so many cycles of kind of like loss and then relief. You get a bad result and then there was still hope, and and then when she finally was more or less cleared, we just had this sense of relief. And so for this to happen after, we just didn't think anything so bad could ever happen again. I mean, that cancer was like 1 in 100,000, and no, plane travel is supposed to be safe.
I think a lot of people are going to be wondering just how you can even talk about this. I mean, just to be, so in this moment of losing Justina and Brielle, why is it important for you to talk about them?
They like all the victims, but they deserve to be remembered. They deserve to have their story known to the world. I mean, everyone dies, right? And they live on through our memories. And I want people to have a memory of them so that they live on. So that's why I wanted to share their story.
Thank you for doing so, Andy. And I think everyone will be really touched to hear from you. So thank you for coming on to talk about that.
Thank you for sharing their story. I could talk to you all day about them, and I know we haven't talked about my wife, but she was the most wonderful mother. She wanted to make every moment special for the kids, and she did. She gave them those magic memories, Brielle too, and we thought those would sustain her into adulthood. She'd be able to draw from them. So it's really sad that she doesn't get to do that because she deserved that. But she was wonderful, and she was my soulmate. I'm going to miss her so much.
Yeah, you're clearly both amazing parents, Andy, and I just want you to know that everyone is praying for you and thinking of you in this moment. I know that doesn't help, but everyone is just really thinking of you guys in this moment. So thank you for joining me.
I want to say one last thing if I can, which is the community and all my close friends and family, everyone has stepped up in such a big way, and it is what is keeping me going. And I know I haven't been able to reach out to thank people, but I want to thank people for that, for everything that everyone is doing for me. It has been so helpful. It's the only thing keeping me going. They've been helping me with my son. He's been having play dates, and so he can live in the moment, and it's really been the thing that's saving us right now. So thank you.
It's beautiful to hear, and thank you for saying that, Andy, again. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You alluded to this earlier, that the idea of the DEI expanded the number of people trying to get into the air traffic control training, not necessarily those who graduated. The head of the National Air Traffic Controllers Association says that all air traffic controllers are subject to rigorous training and that, quote, the standards to achieve certification have nothing to do with race or gender or anything else. So it sounds like you're saying that there isn't any evidence right now that this affected the accident because it's so early. You'll let us know if there is any, but I just don't know of any evidence. And if there is some, please tell us that DEI had anything to do with the tragedy itself.
What I'm talking about is the mission of safety. And on your airplanes, Jake, or your air traffic controllers, or anyone that works at CNN or anywhere else, they do want the best and the brightest. They will not sacrifice that. You can have DEI in water coolers and universities. I disagree with that. But lives aren't impacted with DEI at universities. It is impacted here. And so my commitment to the American people is, I don't care your race, your religion, your color, your sex, your sexual preference. I don't care about any of that. I just want the best and the brightest, keeping Americans safe. And that should be the standard in this department. And that's coming back. That's what we're bringing. We're going back to our mission of safety. And so back to we're talking about the FAA and the staffing levels. So under the Obama administration, they did change the recruitment standards and brought more people in, but less people were certified. That caused a shortage in the system. But also, they lowered, this is the Obama or the Biden administration, they lowered the entrance exam scores to get people into air traffic control. We only have so many slots in the academy. I want to get the best people into the academy that can pass the test, get into towers, and not wash out. So we have people in towers to keep people and flyers safe.
So staffing has been an issue in air traffic control stations since at least 2006, because there was a wave of retirements under President Bush. The FAA says staffing has declined by 10% over the last decade, including in the first Trump administration, and lots of reasons why: the sequestration deal between President Obama and Republicans, repeated government shutdowns, the pandemic, all of that. Hiring did increase under President Biden of air traffic controllers. We just put up a chart there. And I guess one of the questions I have is, one of President Trump's first actions in office was to implement a government-wide hiring freeze, offered blanket buyouts to federal employees, which did impact FAA and NTSB. I'm not saying it had anything to do with this accident, but it has impacted those agencies.
No, it didn't. Jake,
it has. So, well, I was going to say there is a report that you lifted the freeze and that you lifted the buyout offers. So tell us more about that.
So I will. So in regard to the employment freeze, we had almost 1,200 positions that were critical safety positions that were exempted. Those included air traffic controllers. Actually, this last week, we had new air traffic controllers that were hired. We also had postings online to bring in new air traffic controllers. So air traffic controllers were exempted from a hiring freeze, as well as other safety positions like inspectors. In regard to offers for people to take early retirement, for our department, actually, the critical positions in regard to safety are not offered that early retirement. We're going to keep all our safety positions in place, no early retirement. We're all going to stay and work and make sure our skies are safe.
That's great.